All right, boys and girls, young men and young women, it's good to be back today. Looking forward to sharing Ecclesiastes chapter 7. I hope you guys have had a great week. I hope you were actually reading into Ecclesiastes chapter 7. We are just going to get right into it, but before we do, I have a couple of pondering questions. And here's question number one. What is the best party event you've ever attended? So what is the best party or event that you've ever attended? What is the most fun you've ever had? So I want you to think about that and raise your hand if you guys have some answers. So let's, all right.
Just one time, I went to the party at Chuck E. Cheese, and I was sitting in the ball pit, throwing balls at everybody. And then I hit Chuck E. Cheese in the butt. This one time, me and my girlfriends had a sleepover. We stayed up all night, and we did each other's nails. And then we binge-watched Gilmore Girls. It was awesome sauce. Dude, 2 words, 6 Flags. I got to stand in line for like 3 hours in 100-degree weather, and then I paid $10 for this massive soda. Well, it was really like a drop of soda with a bunch of ice. But then I got to ride roller coasters over and over and over and over until I got sick and threw up. It was awesome.
All right, great. I always look forward to hearing what's going to kind of come out of your guys' mouth. Let me ask this next question. Ready? Here we go. When I say death, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? What's the first emotion you feel when I say death? Any answers out there?
Yeah, flushing my pet goldfish jaws down the toilet. Funerals, zombies, sadness.
Well, all right. Thanks again for sharing your insights. Today, and we're going to see where that kind of plays into what Ecclesiastes chapter 7 is talking about, because today in Ecclesiastes chapter 7, Solomon is going to challenge how we view life's moments. Kind of like we talked about just a second, how you view those moments. Now, for the first 6 chapters, Solomon has been sharing his perspective on life based on his experience. And we know that Solomon, what? He did more, and he had more, and really, quite frankly, he was more. No one has lived life under the sun like Solomon. He did that, and here's the good news for you and I. Sometimes we think, oh, we can do it better, but you can't. And what he's showing is us, you can't do it better, and life under the sun, right? Solomon's going to share that the pleasures and treasures of this world, this temporary under the sun world, guess what? They're always going to leave you unfulfilled. That's the first 6 chapters. But in chapter 7, Solomon transitions from telling what he did, and telling what he's seen, and telling us why things are meaningless, to sharing. And he's going to begin to share advice and share insight. Solomon, a man blessed with God, with wisdom, begins to unpack for you and me how to live and hopefully help change the way we see the events that make up life under the sun. So, with that being said, let's get into Ecclesiastes chapter 7, and we are going to be in verse 1. And believe it or not, that's where we're going to be for the whole day. 1 verse. So let's go right here. Ecclesiastes 7:1. A good name is better than precious ointment. I'll say that again. A good name is better than precious ointment. So what do you think Solomon is trying to share with us with that line? Here is what I think Solomon is trying to tell everyone, especially young people on the planet. Every young person, or every person who's obsessed with how they look, worried about their clothes, the latest trends, kind of the must-haves. What Solomon is saying is that you can have all the right fashion accessories, right? That precious, expensive ointment that will make your outside of the light. But what does it matter if no one wants to be around you? Your smell can be nice all around, ready? Your smell can be nice all around, but that doesn't mean you're nice to be around. And there's truth to that. Solomon is encouraging us to be more worried about who we are, our character. As Solomon has gotten older, he's reflecting back on life, and Solomon wants us to understand that our outside appearance is not as important as the world wants us to think, wants you to think. So I did some statistics, did some research. Here's some statistics that I thought were kind of alarming. Americans spent $16 billion, that's right, billion dollars on plastic surgery. And you're like, oh, that's probably just like for the old people, right? 200,000 teenagers spent thousands of dollars each on plastic surgery. That is literally millions of dollars focusing on the outside, on the precious ointment. And here's a news flash, boys and girls, and you can ask your moms and dads. Matter of fact, you don't have to ask. You can just kind of see. As you get older, guess what? Gravity always wins. This temporary body, it's just not going to last. It wasn't meant to last. So here's the question. Great hair or someone that cares? What's more important? The right abs or the right attitude? Having a super wardrobe or being super thoughtful? Solomon is trying to get you to understand that one has a great more value than the other. He's trying to help us see that what makes people special is not how they look. So here's what I want you to do. Think about the person who's most influential in your life. Who is that person? Who's the person that's made the biggest difference in your life? The person that you are just so thankful that you have. And so for many of you, I have a feeling it's going to be, could be a teacher, could be your parents, could be grandparents, could be a coach. Hopefully it's someone a little bit older, but here's the reality. What made them special? What makes them special? So you know who they are. What makes them special? Probably is not whether they're buff or beast or how they look with the shirt off. That's not what makes them special. It's who they are. It's their character. And that's what Solomon is trying to get us to see. We spend so much time on something that's not meant to last when there's something that is so much more important. So here is a question for you to ponder, perhaps journal on. When people hear your name, what do they think? What comes to mind? And what words would they use to describe you? Solomon wants us to be more than our outside. Showers are good, deodorant, soap, perfume, and cologne in moderation are all fine, but at the end of the day, there is so much more than what's on the outside. It really is what is on the inside that has lasting value. Who are you? Your good name, your character, those intangibles, right? So that is the first part of 7:1. Let's go on to the second part of 7:1. And it says, the day of death is better than the day of birth. And the day of death better than the day of birth. So raise your hand if you can tell me what you think Solomon is saying right there. What's he trying to share in that statement? The day of death is better than the day of birth.
Bruh, no, Solomon, you crazy, dude. Even the worst birthday party I've been to is better than a funeral. Like, they don't even have candles on the cake at funerals, man.
All right, no, let's actually talk about the day of birth, right? So as I was meditating on this verse, I decided to do some research on the birthing process of a baby. So follow with me. So here's kind of what we have in the birthing process, right? You got a 7-ish pound baby with a head that is 13 inches-ish round, okay, about like that. And what's going to happen is the baby is literally squeezed through a birth canal that's about 6 inches-ish long, and he's going to be squeezed through an opening that is roughly like 4 inches round. So 6 inches long, 4 inches round. Now, in order for this to be possible, 13 and 4, what happens is the baby's skull is not fully grown together yet. You see the awesomeness of God. And so that allows the baby's head to literally be molded into the shape of the birth canal, which is why newborn babies oftentimes have some weird shaped heads.
That explains why my brother looked like a gnome when he was born. I swear, he looked like he was wearing a cone-shaped birthday hat.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that insight about your brother's head shape. I appreciate that. I'm sure he appreciates that as well. But let's kind of get back to the process because I really want to make a point here. This pressure right there in the birthing process is extreme. And it's extreme enough that it literally squeezes the fluid and mucus from inside the baby so that it comes out of the baby. And while at the same time it's squeezing it out, it's keeping the baby from inhaling the fluid that the baby is passing through. And it does it so that the baby will be ready to take its first breath when it pops out. Now, this process, boys and girls, really is amazing. And it reminds us of how awesome God is as he's thought of all those little details. And I will tell you, I had 4 babies, and it was an absolutely incredible day for each one of our kids. It really is. But make no mistake, the process of birth, of life under the sun in a fallen world is difficult, and it comes with extreme pressure, and it will squeeze you, right? Solomon reminds us that life here in this temporary world is very difficult. The trials and tribulations squeeze you. Difficulties squeeze you. Situations and circumstances, well, guess what? Yes, they're going to squeeze you. And I want you to know Solomon isn't talking, and if you don't believe that Solomon is talking about the pain and discomfort associated with the day of birth, all you really have to do is ask your moms, and I think they'll give you, yes, the day of birth is a difficult and painful experience. So Solomon says something that seems crazy at first, but if we remember what he said in Ecclesiastes 3:11, ready? And if you remember, this is what he said, that God has placed eternity in our hearts. What Solomon is saying is that the day of death is not something we as Christians should fear. That God has placed something in us that realizes there is something more, something better, and something beyond this fallen world. This temporary world. There's something else that we should be excited about, something better that we should be looking forward to. So let's look at some of the verses. 2 Corinthians 5:8 says, to be absent from the body, that's this temporary vessel, is to be gone from this world, is to be present with the Lord. Someone say better. To be in the presence of the Lord. Say better. Philippians 1:21, Paul tells us that life is good. That life is a good thing. It's an opportunity to experience in Philippians 1:21. To live is Christ, to die is gain. And what he's saying is life is good. It's a good thing. It's an opportunity to experience Christ as his presence works in us, with us, through us, and for us. It is a good thing. But the day of death is gain. Well, why? Because we will experience the presence of Jesus unveiled perfectly and completely in ways that cannot be experienced here in this fallen world with our fallen bodies and our fallen senses. So here's the question. If Jesus is everything and we are pursuing him with everything, then being in his presence will be better than, you guessed it, everything. That's exactly right. Say better. John 14:3. Jesus tells us that he is going away to prepare a place. To prepare a place that we won't be able to see when? Until after the day of death. Now, Miss Christine, one of her favorite things to do is to watch home improvement shows. And as I was thinking about this, they kind of do the big renovation, then they've got the big reveal, right? And so then they bring the people there and their eyes are closed, and they say, all right, open your eyes, and then they cue to the commercial, and you got to wait 5 minutes, but you come back in, and then they open their eyes and they're like, oh my gosh. Right? And then they open the door and they walk in and they are absolutely amazed at what has transpired in the home that they're going to get to live in. Now, I don't care how awesome your crib is, right? Your house, your room, your place, your palace. I don't care how awesome it is. I think we would all agree anything Jesus is preparing has to be better. That's right. Say better. The day of birth represents potential. The day of death fulfillment. The day of birth ushers in life to a fallen world where there will be pain, loss, regret, and tears. But the day of death for Christians ushers in life to our eternal home, into the presence of Jesus with what? With glorified bodies, perfect senses, no tears, no pain, just nothing but awesomeness. So notice, though, because I think it's important just to take a step back, notice Solomon did not say the day of birth was bad. That's not what he's saying at all. Life is good. Say good. I mean, it is good. And I want you to understand life is good, and you should wake up every day excited to see what the Lord has in store, how you're going to experience him today as you pursue his purpose and plans and as you pursue his will. John 10:10 says, Jesus said that he came so that we could, guess what? Enjoy life and enjoy it to the full. Here's the deal, boys and girls. Life is a gift. And it should be cherished and it should be appreciated, and we should take advantage of every single precious moment. But the day of birth is good. The day of birth is good, right? It is incredible. It is indescribable. But the day of death is better. Solomon is not saying life is bad. What he's trying to do is help give meaning and purpose to this life. God's promises begin to make sense when we realize that ultimately and completely they are ultimately and completely fulfilled and realized not after the day of birth, but after the day of death. Life is good, but eternal life is better. Solomon is trying to help change how we see life. My sister Marcy, as some of you know, she died at 16. And this is what Solomon is trying to get us to see. Instead of mourning all that she did not get to experience, when you understand what Solomon is saying in that statement, the day of death is better than the day of life, here's what happens. We begin to be grateful for all that she did get to experience. And we are excited for all that she gets to experience. Things that are not available in life under the sun, but only in life with the sun. You begin to realize what this life is, and there's something even more, if that makes sense. So let's kind of wrap this up. As the world that we live in today is being shaken by the coronavirus, and those things that will come in the future and continue to shake us, right? There's going to be a shaking. Solomon wants to give us advice, and he wants to share some wisdom to help comfort each of us. The day of death is better than the day of life. It's not about wishing this life gone or wasting this life away. That's not what he's saying at all. We are to enjoy this life and live this life to the full in him and with him and for him. But what he is saying is that every moment that makes up life under the sun in this temporary fallen imperfect world brings us to an opportunity to enjoy life with the Son, with Jesus, because with Jesus and only Jesus, guess what? The story ends well. There is the happily ever after, not because we find a cure for the coronavirus, but because life with Jesus is better. Because life with Jesus, when we have life with Jesus, we have so much to enjoy and so much to look forward to. So that is what Solomon is meaning. The day of death is better than the day of life. We need to enjoy life, but we need to be excited about what God has in store for us in the future. But it all, again, is about life with Jesus. Not life under the sun, but life in the sun. So, I hope you enjoyed today's message. I hope, boys and girls, that you have made Jesus Christ your Lord and Savior, because that is truly what makes the day of death better. It's all contingent upon that. And so, if you have any questions about that, or are even concerned whether you have done that, we've talked about this in the past, again, email me, and my email address is Chris, CHRIS, at mynewbridge.church. We can dialogue, and we can make sure that you know what it's like to have life with the Son. And then you can enjoy life here and look forward to the day of death and what is waiting for you there. So God bless, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.